what is PTSD?
So I guess PTSD is, a lot of people tend to relate it to when people have been to war, but it's not related strictly to when someone's been to war. It can be, when someone's had a car accident or or it can be related to when someone's experienced rape, or it's usually when there's been an incident of trauma. And when we're thinking about one incident in particular, when someone's thinking about going back to an event, so when we're thinking about a war, it's when they're thinking about going back to a war event. So it's when they're thinking about any traumatic incident or area and they're going back to that space. So they're having constant flashbacks or nightmares or symptoms. Every time they go past the road where they've had the accident, for example, or if they're going past, when they're going to sleep, or they're having a memory, or there's a certain smell, or there's a certain loud bang all of a sudden, it's reminding them of those incidents or that trauma. So that's what post-traumatic stress disorder is. It can go on for the rest of their lives, but they can, through counselling, through help and support over time, reduce the impact of that trauma.
How can your workplace help facilitate people who are dealing with PTSD? Whether you're in an office job, you're working on a construction site, whether you're travelling, there's loads of different...
Yeah, I guess with construction sites, and you mentioned, you had people with PTSD, if there's a lot of people that have, ex-army, people that have left the army, joined the construction industry, which tends to happen, and a lot of their symptoms are of PTSD and things like loud bangs and sounds and things
which
like that. Which
is what you would hear on a construction site.
Tend to trigger. It's looking at, I guess it's seeing what would help them. So and it might be different from person to person. What support and help would they need? Would they need counselling that would help them reduce some of those triggers? What things would... So it is about creating those spaces that we were speaking about earlier. What would help the talking, just other people being aware of actually what's going on for them, if they need to take a bit of space to just self-soothe using some of those breathing techniques, which they might learn through counselling, or just learning how to self-soothe in those moments, which they would pick up in counselling. Just having that awareness of actually what goes on for them, because when they're triggered, it's things like the increased heart rate. Think what happens for them, because it will take them back into that fight or flight mode.